Hello and welcome. Box this week 90, approaching triple digits here, which is kind of a bit scary in a good way. We have got quite a lot to talk about, but more interesting stuff. Almost less about the fighting, more about fighter protection. Drugs always coming up at the moment, which is annoying. But in fairness, we might have the first one where we might defend the fighter. So it's kind of interesting. We're going to very quickly go into the roundup, which we've got a lot of things that have been announced or not announced. So Floyd Mayweather is fighting in the exhibition in Greece. It doesn't really matter. It's a money thing. It's a money grab. He's going to win the fight. It's an exhibition, not a pro. We still don't know what's going on with Pacquiao, but that's that. This I do want to talk about. Richardson Hitchens, not about 3 weeks ago, signed with Zuffa. He's vacated his IBF title, his world title at 140. He's moving up to welterweight, so 147. We know Zuffa have just signed Conor Benn on a 5-fight deal, I think now. Hitchens versus Benn, is that for the Zuffa welterweight world title?
I think so. I think at some point, but I think Dana White's got a task on his hands of obviously building up every fighter that he signs to the promotion, and I think as how do I put it, as controlled, or like here's the thing with Dana White, yeah, and what he's renowned for is he is renowned for making fights with the top guys and the best wins, and they lose a new champion's crown in the UFC. He's renowned for doing that. He's probably, until he started Zuffa, he's probably one of the only guys or promoters in that combat space at that level that weren't afraid of putting the best for the best in the ring, or because it's all under kind of one banner. Are we going to see the same thing with Zuffa? I hope so, because it's a 5-fight deal, for example, Conor Benn's got. But how protected is he going to be as an asset? Bearing in mind the money that he's earning from fighting, obviously. There's two elements to this, because it's not really in Dana White's interest for him to lose fights when you're paying him the money you're paying him. I am convinced, obviously, that we could see that fight. I'm still a bit confused on the whole Zuffa thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't know about you, Connor, but look, it's one of them things where it's like, I can see where they're going with it, and I can see what they're going to do. And regardless of whether people like it or not, they're here to stay. It's very obvious. But I've just seen certain things that makes me think you're not really that much different from the promoters that you kind of slam on social media. Like, I mean, you've put Regis Prograis, 4 injuries, and then had an injury on the night of the fight in with Conor Benn. Like, really and truly, you weren't going to put him in there with anyone that he could potentially lose against. When you knew that there was a WBC title on it. So what I'm saying is we need consistency here in the fact that Dana White, you move like every other promoter and protect your assets. Don't give us this, no, I'm going to put him in 50-50 fights, because that weren't a 50-50 fight. And that's the only element of it I'm a bit confused by, and how that works with Zuffa and all these new guys they're signing. I'm just not sure. Boxing's going in a bit of a weird place, I think, Connor. I don't know what you think, but
yeah, I think it is. And you're right. We don't know I don't really know what their goal is, because we're going to talk about the court case in a bit, which obviously involves Zuffa and involves sort of traditional boxing versus this new form that's trying to be made with Dana White and all this. But the fact is, Opetaia against Glanton wasn't 50-50. Like, fair play, the cruiserweights are very tricky. It's annoying getting them in the ring with anyone, especially Opetaia. They don't want to get in there with them. But Brandon Glanton is not the best opposition they could have got. They have signed Chris Billum-Smith now as well, which is worth mentioning. It's another boxer fighter who has gone to a different promotion. I like the Hitchens versus Conor Benn fight. I think that's a good fight. I'd prefer to see Conor Benn Ryan Garcia, because that's built up. But it's not bad. Look, it's another Zuffa thing that's come out, and he's vacated his IBF world title. I'm guessing that's preemptively before the IBF can get away anyway.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a prediction now around Zuffa, yeah. And listen, whether you like this individual or not, I'm gonna make this prediction, people. Whatever's happening with Gervonta Davis, don't be surprised if he signs for Zuffa in the next 2 years.
Yeah. Well, Dana White doesn't care about working with controversial people. He's McGregor, John Jones,
Sean Strickland.
Sean Strickland. Yeah, like Dana White and the UFC are pretty open to working with
John Jones.
Some real scum. Like, let's be honest. As long as they're good fighters, Dana White doesn't care. So
the best fighter to come out of UFC for a long time, John Jones, has done a madness outside of the ring, both in felonies, drugs, assaults. Like there isn't anything. So yeah, you're right, but it was just a off but on topic kind of thing.
No, but you're right. I think they would work with him. I don't see Matchroom ever going near Gervonta. They wouldn't want that. That's damaging to the brand. I don't think Dana White cares. I don't think he would ever look at it in a bad way, which is mental, by the way. Even Dana White has hit his misses. We've seen that. It's on video. Like he's no better than these lot. If we're being complete, so he doesn't care. I don't have any respect for that side of it either. By the way, I think you should care. I think there should be a level of these are role models. These boxers and certain boxers should not be put in positions where they're seen more. But that's kind of a conversation for a different day. Zuffa were also trying to sign Bam Rodriguez recently, which they didn't get. He's extended with Matchroom, and then announced a fight against Antonio Vargas at bantamweight. So we're pretty close now to Bam and Inoue being the same weight class. It's for Antonio Vargas' WBA bantamweight world title. Could we are approaching? We've had early talks apparently as well. Bam versus Noah Inoue. That is, if Noah Inoue has Nakatani and Bam, and he goes up to featherweight. Oh my god!
I mean, people don't want to say it, but at what point do we look at what Inoue's doing? Yeah. And do we say he becomes pound for pound number 1 or 2? If those things play out, at some point he needs a bit more respect on his name. The fact of the matter is, Inoue is doing stuff that no one in the ring, and just look, he's fought top guys. World level opponents back to back. The guy. If medicals didn't stop him, I'm convinced that man would fight 5 times a year with a world title.
Yeah. He has there's no break. He just wants to keep going the whole time. I mean, he's the best champion in boxing right now, bar none. Every fight is a 50. Well, it's not a 50-50 because he's so good, but it's the closest you're going to get to a 50-50 with Noah Inoue.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. Come fight night with Nakatani. Nakatani, again, a great fighter. And this is why this clash is going to be interesting, because if Inoue beats Nakatani, I think it puts him in a different stratosphere.
That's number 6 pound for pound, by the way, Nakatani.
Yeah.
Like,
not that he isn't in his own stratosphere, but at what point are people going to stop saying, how many times have you fought outside of Tokyo Dome? How many times have you done this? No, but I'm saying at what point...
No, a lot of people say it.
Stop giving the respect that I think he deserves. I know he deserves. If he then goes and fights Bam Rodriguez and beats him, it's a joke. And do you know what? Whilst we're there, you lot wanted me to fight Nick Ball. I'll fight him as well and I'll beat him. So I don't know how many of these guys, before you start giving Inoue some respect, but hey, what do we know, Conor?
Yeah, he'll fight everyone. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, he's actually done it. I wrote this down because I was like, I need to quote this. He believes losing to Junta Nakatani is unacceptable. And the longer quote, the longer part of him speaking there, he doesn't rate Nakatani. He doesn't think they're the same level. He doesn't give. He does not care that Nakatani is number 6 pound for pound by Ring Magazine, which, by the way, I do think is a bit high. Nakatani's a really good fighter, and he's 32-0, and he's done a lot, and he deserves a lot of respect. And this is nowhere near his hardest fight by far. But Nakatani, I don't know about number 6 pound for pound. That feels quite high, but he's an incredible fighter, and it's mental because I just don't see him beating a Naoya, who we are going to speak about. We will speak more about that next week, that fight, because obviously that is the 2nd of May. But I just wanted to bring up that Bam is fighting at a higher weight for a new world title, which I think brings him to 3 or 4 weight classes that he would be world champion in, which is just a mental achievement for a guy that's 24. We've also got Galal Yafai, still at the sort of at super bantam, is going to get his shot at world titles. We knew it was coming, but he's actually going to get a shot at both the WBC and WBA against Ricardo Sandoval on the Dalton Smith undercards. That's now a double world title header, which is, again, Matchroom turning out the cards of really high quality whilst others are struggling. They are 10 shows in this year. They've got Sky Nicholson next week in Australia. They've got Miller versus Lenier Perro, which is this weekend. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are cooking up. Like they are fine. Moses Satao was set to headline the O2 July 25th. No opponent announced. No one even rumored, really.
Yeah,
but
I mean, just very quickly, just mentioning on that, I think the Riakporhe fight's more than likely now. I think obviously Okolie was mentioned as an option. Obviously, we will go into that shortly, but that doesn't really look like it's going to happen now for the foreseeable anyway. So because of that, I think obviously Moses Tauma's got to look to what really is going to elevate him next. What to get him to? He's already obviously a mandatory, but putting another win on his record against another high-ranking heavyweight is only going to do him favors, because we know the mandatories don't really mean anything. In terms of you become a mandatory, you're not given a title shot straight away. So I feel like the only way for Moses Tauma to get a title shot is he just has to keep rendering people unconscious until the board go, yeah, we need to give him a title shot. And I think that's what he will do. I don't see anyone beating Moses Tauma until he becomes a world champion. And you know why I say until, because I think, you look at the other heavyweights that are on their journeys, obviously Leo Tang, and a lot earlier in their career. But these are big fights from Moses down the line, I think, when he will become a world champion. And he's going to be chucked into really tough fights. I think we're going to see a similar sort of path with Moses that we saw with Joshua, in the sense of Joshua kind of become world champion and then just fought all the mandatories that were in front of him. He didn't really run from anyone at all. Like I say, really, he didn't. And I think we're going to get the same thing with Moses Tauma. So I think the sooner it happens, the better. I mean, look, Joshua at some point wants to become undisputed again. If Moses does cross his paths and he gets Joshua and he beats Joshua, with all due respect to Joshua, at what point, where do we, it's going to get to a point where we go, what bracket are we putting Moses in? And I think he is very much on that path, unless something mad happens. Richard Riakporhe looks like it's going to be next. I'll be excited to watch that fight. Stylistically, it's a good fight. And I think it will test Moses, because I don't think everything will go his way in that fight. But I still think he'll find a way out, and I think he'll win.
Yeah, I think Richard Riakporhe is a good fight. Riakporhe we've seen at cruiserweight was just below that world level. He was kind of waiting really for a world title shot, and he just never got it, which is why he moved up. So Jamie TKV, British title. I think that's a little bit not. I don't want to say below in a disrespectful way, but I think Riakporhe's above British level fighter by quite a bit.
100%.
But for Moses Tauma versus Richard Riakporhe headlining the O2 for the British heavyweight title, Can't complain about that. That will sell. And Moses gets another good name. It's a competitive fight, but it's a fight that I think Moses would win. But again, he should get rounds from it. Similar to Jermaine Franklin, he should get rounds from it. Yeah, I like that fight. There's no opponent announced. There's no one really spoken about. I imagine it would have been Okolie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you kind of want to go next with it, so I don't really want to speak too much or where we should be going next. I mean, Okolie, it seems to be the mad topic, obviously.
Yeah,
but if I speak to it in relation to Moses Atauma, I think he'll be gutted that he didn't get that fight.
Yeah,
or he won't be getting that fight.
It's a huge money fight. That
I think Riakporhe is a massive fight as well, but I think Okolie and Riakporhe is a massive fight, a heavyweight.
Yep. Yeah. That fight's been brewing for years as well.
Yeah, and it's almost like that on a massive card. Like if you're gonna do a Tyson Fury and Joshua, you put Okolie against Richard Riakporhe on that card.
Yeah, that could be co-main event.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
that'd be good. British versus an all British card. Why not?
Can you imagine they done? I'm not being funny, but in that we've been waiting 10 years for the Joshua fight. Say that happens in November, and you know what? Obviously, we'll talk about it shortly. But providing obviously Okolie is all right to box soon.
Yeah,
I think that we could see an all heavyweight card.
Yeah, they'd make it. They have to make it special. I like the idea. You get those fights that were past, the overdue ones. We get Boatsy Yard on it. Any fight that we should have had by now, and they
British
just go,
fights.
you know what?
Yeah,
British fights. We'll stick that on it. I like that. But we'll talk about Lawrence Okolie in a second. There's only one more smaller story I want to bring up, which is Agyarko. The worst pronunciation I've ever done. Agyarko was Irish fighter. Has been snubbed for the IBF Eliminator fight. As he didn't respond in time to the email. His team didn't respond in time. From what I can make out, he had about 3 days. Now, I don't know for sure, but it seems like he had about 3 days. We've seen people get months to respond and sign contracts. So that feels a bit unfair. He also, important to remember, earlier this year / end of last year, was meant to fight Brandon Adams, who's still got this fight. He's fighting Murtazaliev, who Josh Kelly beats, as for Josh Kelly's 154-pound world title. Brandon Adams missed weight, couldn't fight. Fight was called off. Agyarko was still there, but didn't get the fight. I don't understand how he's now being punished, and his opponent, who was unprofessional, has now got himself the IBF eliminating fight. It is what it is. It's just a shame. It's also typical of the IBF at the moment. They seem to pick and choose who they like. Right. Lawrence Okolie failed a drugs test with VADA. One of many fighters to have done that. One of the other ones being Baumgardner, who won on the weekend, but we're not really going to talk about it. It wasn't the best fight, but congratulations to her. Hopefully we get her, Dubois, her, Kate Taylor, her versus whoever. But Lawrence Okolie is the most recent to have an adverse finding. Now, we have a clip out about it. You can see it on Instagram. He's saying or suggesting that it's due to the elbow surgery / shoulder surgery, like the surgeries that he had on his arm, and the medication that he was put on for that. That was a while ago, as in quite a while ago that he had that operation. He has had a full camp for Tony Yoka, which, by the way, if you didn't know, the event is off completely, which is a shame. But like the rest of the card wasn't strong enough. It was never going to hold up. So, what do you make of this? Because I'm 50-50 at the moment, I think.
I think, obviously, with that card, we're talking... Yeah, with that card, I'll be brutally honest. The situation is a shame. The card has gone. I think that's quite sad. I think that was a huge card that we was looking at in Paris.
Yeah.
Not really, probably one of their biggest events since probably the Olympics in terms of boxing.
Yeah.
In boxing terms,
Yeah,
obviously, the Olympics itself is a huge event, but I mean, the boxing side of it, new market to kind of see what new fighters come out of there. It's always interesting going to a new country that don't predominantly put on huge boxing shows or not renowned for it. Obviously, Lawrence Okolie's come out this week and said that he's failed or adverse findings have come back, thus making him fail a drugs test. I think there is logic behind it. I think with this, we have to wait and see what they say before we can really pass judgment, as we have always actually said consistently with everything when it's come to these drugs tests. There's outright and right cheating. I think we was talking about it earlier on. Billy Joe Saunders, many years ago, failed a drugs test for something that was essentially linked to nasal spray, banned in one state, or banned by one body, but not banned for the other body. So if he'd have gone through one body, he would have passed, but another one he would have been banned. I think there's probably inconsistencies within drugs testing itself in boxing. To make the comparison, obviously, when you look at a sport like MMA, which was riddled with drugs years and years ago, the days of like Chuck Liddell fighting and steroids was like riddled. They've done pretty well to kind of clean that out of their sport or that specific promotion to a degree. You don't always get it right. But, it's one of them unfortunate things. I mean, just to give people clarity with drugs tests, when someone fails a drugs test, it doesn't necessarily always mean they're doing performance enhancing. That's a very different drug to fail. If, for example, a certain paracetamol or ibuprofen is not on UKAD's list of supplements you're allowed to take, that is considered a banned substance.
Yeah.
If there's a hay fever tablet that's not approved, that's a banned substance. If that is found in your system, you will fail the test. So the reason I say we need to wait is because the medication that he was on, and we don't know if he was still taking medication because of that maybe to manage pain, or it could be anything. I think the parameters around it are very vague. I think we can only really give a proper examination of it once more information comes out. I hope that Lawrence Okolie is clean, because at the end of the day, I think he's put himself in a great position in the heavyweight rankings. It would be a shame, obviously, if they turn around to him and go, well, no, you're banned for 2 years now. A ban at this time could do more damage to him than good. Look, it's hard. What do you say at this point, Conor? Because at the end of the day, there's so many parameters around it.
Yeah. It's the first time in a long time we've got a drug cheat, or not a cheat, a person that's failed a drugs test who has a reason that feels valid.
Yes.
Like, I can kind of accept the fact that we know he had surgery. Anyone who's ever had surgery has had medication after to deal with pain and deal with, antibiotics to make sure it doesn't get infected. All that kind of stuff. That's normal. You can't expect him not to take it. The main thing will be waiting to see what drug was actually found in the system. We don't know yet. If it turns out he's got like TRT or something, he's had testosterone replacement therapy, then that's got nothing to do with the surgery. So it's a waiting game. I think. I don't think he's a cheat. I think this is just slightly unfortunate, but
yeah, I do hope we are correct, because, and I'm really not going to go into the thing of naming past what's going on, Arjun. Right? I'm not going to go into the thing of naming past fighters that have failed, because we spoke about it enough on here.
Yeah,
and I think you can read our lips when we're saying what fighters failed and weren't given proper sentencing to their punishments. I think that one of them fights on Zuffer. Sorry, I'm just going to put that one out there.
Yeah,
but listen, at the end of the day, with these things, you have to wait until the investigation comes out. The problem with social media now is everyone's quick to condemn. You hear failed drugs test, but no one actually knows what he's failed and what he's done. So it is very important to mention that you can fail from something as simple as anything oral you take in your day-to-day life. A vitamin that isn't approved can be taken off the list. I imagine it's a lot harder for females because females obviously have to deal with, I think, more things to do with their body when they're fighting than men. And I think obviously when you look at and I know we said it earlier on, Alycia Baumgardner fought that whole fight on her period, which is mental. Considering, I mean, we are not women, so we don't know what it feels like. But you've probably heard the women, your wife, your missus, your sister, your cousin, your mum talk about what they've been through. And they're kind of curled up in a ball in cramps all day. So you can only imagine. But I'm sure there'll be stuff that you can take to ease the pain of that. How hard that would have been around the training camp. So there's a lot of parameters around why people take medication and why people take certain things. I think we've just got to wait for the final verdict to come out. And then at that point, we're either going to be sitting here and going, we was right, or we're either going to be sitting here calling Lawrence Okolie,
I think it's about what he's taken. If it comes out, the thing he's taken is something that's normally used for post-surgery, help, basically, then I'm willing to accept he's not cheated. I don't think he's cheated. I think it's not one of these where he's saying he had surgery and we didn't know about it. We spoke about him having surgery on the show like 3 months ago. So I don't think he's done it. I'll be honest. I don't think he's done it. Also, and I don't mean this in a rude way, you normally, if you're taking steroids and the sort of performance-enhancing drugs that are really dangerous, generally speaking, you look like you're in really good shape. Lawrence Okolie is an athlete, but he embraces the term heavyweight. He's not built like Anthony Joshua. He is built like a heavyweight. Does Okolie get fined? No, he won't get fined, but he has lost his purse for this fight week. So however many, probably hundreds of thousands he was going to earn this weekend, he won't because he's not fighting.
Which is going to have as a detrimental effect on him as being fined. Yeah, and obviously it is important mentioning that the boxing board, there's a fine that you can get for the drug cheat if you are a drug cheat. But also, if the board decides that you've brought the sport into disrepute, they can also fine you as well, whether you choose to pay that or not. Because a lot of these things are mad, because a lot of these things are not legally binding. I mean, we saw it with Terence Crawford and the WBC. Obviously, he was told he had to pay a sanctioning fee. He didn't pay it. So what's happening now?
Yeah, they just don't like him. That's all that's happened. They said, we'll take the title back. And he went, well, I'm retiring anyway. So what? I'll keep the $300,000. Thanks.
So I think we'll see what happens, but I think he'll feel it. Obviously, he's put it into a training camp. He's probably had to pay coaches for time. And I think it's important to remember as well that, a lot of these boxers that fight at high levels can still not be earning as much money as you think. So this will hit his pocket as much as not fighting. Like, it doesn't do him any favors.
No, he's also paid for a full training camp. That's expensive. His coaches and stuff, they need to be paid. Like, his sparring partners still need paying. They shouldn't get fines. They should just get banned for a bit. I agree. I think you wait. You do. They'll have a hearing and they'll do all the formalities, which will take way too long. But they'll do all that. Fining fighters, regardless of if they've cheated or not, it should only be the case if you're fining them after the fight, because then they've freshly made money, and it's like, okay. But again, the fine should go towards something that improves the sport. It shouldn't be like one of these WBC convention kind of fines where it's like, we're helping the old fighters, the old generation, and there's just no proof of that. So I kind of agree. I think it's just banned. But Lawrence Okolie, Tony Yoka is off. I doubt we'll see that fight. Potentially we'll get Tony Yoka versus Moses Atalma next. I mean, we said about Moses headlining at the O2. I think Moses would wipe the floor with him, but Yoka's on a good little win streak, so you never know. Let's talk about Ben Whittaker next, I think.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about Ben Whittaker. Another round 1 stoppage, which is now 2 in a row, 2 with Matchroom. I want to bring up 2 points that we made. First of all, is we told you this would happen last week. I'm not to be arrogant, but we did say
it is bad.
Watch him win by round 1.
Yeah. What was the second point, Connor?
Second point is one of them, technically we don't know who, couldn't make light heavyweight between Whittaker and Suarez.
One of them, we don't know who.
Yeah. To be fair, Suarez has been fighting at 186 pounds. So potentially it is him. He couldn't get down, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't at light heavyweight. It was at a catch weight, which doesn't really matter. It's not a world title. It's not really for any belt. But, but it's just worth
What's interesting about this is what I don't like about boxing is if I can sit here and now don't get me wrong, there's fights that you look at and go, yeah, they're building. Obviously, Ben Whittaker's past building now. I think he is a product that needs to be put out for distribution and go and fight or go to the big stores, the big leagues. Yeah. That's where Whittaker needs to go now and be tested. I don't like saying at this point of his career, I can 100% tell you're going to win that fight.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I'm not slating Ben Whittaker in any way because we've said many times on the podcast, I've said many times on the podcast, I like Ben Whittaker as a fighter. I think he's a good fighter. Yeah. I'm frustrated at the direction his career's gone in, which may not all be his fault, to be honest with you. Easy to sit here and nitpick and say he's done this, done that. I don't think he's ducking anyone. He could have walked away from the Cameron rematch. Took the rematch after a bad performance. Obviously, he got injured, but he took the rematch off a bad performance, which he was losing that fight anyway, the first one.
Yeah.
Come back, picked himself up again, and won convincingly. I think Ben Whittaker will want them big fights. I think that's why he left Ben Shalom, because he wants to get that next step. But I feel like Eddie Hearn, as great as a promoter he is, he's very good. And as are all the best promoters in the world, protecting, obviously, your brand and your fighters. If you was to give Eddie Hearn, if you was to give Ben Whittaker 50-50 or offer him a 50-50 now, without the thing of a title on the line, at this point in his career now, do you think Eddie Hearn's going to say yes, stick him in?
This is the thing. I don't know, but the problem I've got is, as much as I'll try and tell you, Benjamin Gavazzi was not a good fighter. 19-1, which is impressive, but we did a deep dive before the fight on the show of Fight Week of Whittaker Gavazzi, and we were saying Gavazzi's record is pretty padded. Like, if you actually look at who the wins are against, it's not the best. Suarez, basically the exact same. The bloke fights all sorts of weights between heavy all the way down to super middle at some points, but mainly light heavy, but it does vary. He'd lost 4 times before the fight, and 3 of them were knockout losses. 21 wins, 20 by knockout. Yeah, that's great. But again, look who he's knocked out. And normally they're fights that have taken place in Argentina, which is fine, but it's not the home of boxing, against fighters that we have, again, just like either they've had no experience, they've generally lost a lot. It's a record that looks all right, but if you look into it, it's a record that it's nothing special.
There are certain places you can go to in the world and get fights and get more than you paid for when you go there. I'm just going to leave that there. Professional fighters, by the way.
Yeah.
You see it a lot on small hall shows. These fighters have got great records coming over, great opponent for obviously their star boy to get on. Geezer's had 6 fights in Venezuela. He's fought twice on the night, but they've put him down and said he's 4-0.
Yeah, there's all
that
sorts.
Happens, by the way.
There's all sorts that can happen.
You can research that up online. If I'm not lying, that does happen.
Yeah.
So when you do look at a padded record like that, it does make you question how legit is it. But also the other thing as well to mention is, in a year's time, the difference between a great fighter and a good fighter is, if you ask me about a great fighter and and give me 4 people they've knocked out, I can tell you an okay or a good fighter. Let's be honest with you, in a year's time or 2 years' time, without actually having to look off the top of your head, are you going to be able to tell me who Ben Whittaker's knocked out?
No. The only one would be Liam Cameron.
Yes.
Because of that was a big fight. But we're at a point with Whittaker where we need him to fight. He is protected. It's not his fault. I haven't got a problem with it. But Craig Richards is a great fight. That's someone that's not even got a fight lined up.
If Lyndon Arthur wins his fight that he's got coming up.
Yeah, against Louis Edmondson. Yeah, I like that fight. Edmondson. There's a lot of fights and he's a big name, Ben Whittaker, but there'll be a lot of people that look at him the way we're looking at him currently, going, his record isn't that great. Don't get me wrong, the way he's winning these fights is good, but it's the way he should be winning them. He should be taking the piss. These are people that should be below what we expect of Ben Whittaker.
You're talking about an Olympian.
Yeah, exactly.
A highly skilled boxer, silver medalist, isn't it? So, you're talking about a high-level boxer who's come into the ranks. To an extent, especially for his first couple of fights, I get it. You get him in there, he's expected. I think we have to go back a while ago when Ben Whittaker fought a county fighter on Ben Shalomsha. Northern, I think it was a Northern County fighter on area champion from up north on Ben Shalomsha. That wasn't that long ago. That was when he started pointing towards his coach, telling them to shush and all this sort of thing. But if he goes and beats Craig Richards, we're having a different conversation. We're saying, okay, now we're seeing Ben Whittaker. This is what he can do. Give him Yard or Buatsi next, or give him Lyndon Arthur. I think he needs 2 of those fights, to be honest with you, before. The problem is, the light heavyweight division is a very hard place to win a title, and I think Ben Whittaker's lucky that Benavidez moved up, to be honest with you.
The gap between the very good and the world class at light heavyweight is a bigger gap than there is in any other division. I don't know where he fits in. Don't get me wrong. When we see him, by the way, his performance on Saturday was really good. He did his job perfectly and got him out of there. And you can't complain. That Suarez's team can't complain about how quick it was. He did his job. But there is a spade's a spade, a duck's a duck. It's getting a bit boring when we know what's going to happen. Craig Richards, that's a 50-50 fight. If Ben Whittaker goes and knocks Craig Richards out in the first round, we know he's special. Because you don't knock Craig Richards out in the first round and you're not special. So, I don't know. There's the other side to it, which is he's only had 12 fights. But then he's 28 years old. If anything, a 28-year-old should either have more fights or should be going into harder fights sooner, because there is not as long in this career. He could be a money fighter who doesn't like taking challenges. I don't think. Maybe he is a money fighter. I don't know about the challenges, but I feel like all fighters believe in themselves. Like, I think he would take anyone if it was offered.
I think if you don't put faith in yourself, why are you even boxing? So
exactly.
I do see what you're saying, but I think that taking the challenges comes more so from the promoter rather than the fighter. Yeah,
it's promoter in the team. The fighter will fight whoever I think you put in front of them.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that is kind of where the team come in, where they have to kind of protect the fighter from the fighter sometimes.
Yeah.
The promoter has to protect the fight, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they lead them down a garden, lead them astray.
Yeah, massively. But Whittaker's been fighting since 2022. So he started at 24. 4 years of fighting, and he's 12 fights. 3 fights a year is not a lot for a guy who's at Olympic level. Who's at the Olympics. I don't know. Look, hopefully we see him at least one more time this year, minimum. Like I want to see him twice this year, to be honest. I think, but at least once more if it's a harder fight, and then we can start praising him properly. But yeah, the event itself was good. It was not what it could have been, but the fights were good. It missed the main event of Callum Smith versus David Morrell, but what can you do?
Obviously important to highlight as well, Molly McCann fought on the card as well.
Yeah. Molly McCann fought and won. Leo Atang fought and won. Joe McGrail fought and won. Weirdly, there was another McGrail. I thought Peter was meant to be fighting as well. Not really sure. There was 2 McGrails that were meant to fight, and only one did. So I'm not sure what happened there. But overall, everyone who should have won did win, which is great. But it is also sort of expected because it was a bit of a prospect card, except for the main event. But I'm happy the event went ahead. It's a good thing it did. Speaking of Matchroom, we've got another event this weekend. Jarrell Miller versus Lenier Perro. Perro's, you might know him. He beat Jordan Thompson, unanimous decision, like 4 months ago, either very start of this year or end of last year. I don't care about this event, got to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Jarrell Miller will win this quite easily.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, unless you're an amazing or a good fighter, I think his weight is too overbearing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at how much that took out of a fighter like Daniel Dubois. He won, but look how much that took out of him. Now, if you're not on that level of Daniel Dubois, that is a hard man to stop. Give Miller his credit where credit is due. That is a hard man to stop. And look how much it took for Dubois. I'm convinced watching that fight, Dubois' body was like dying inside, just out of tiredness. Miller should win. Not the most exciting event. It's not one that gets me out of bed per se. So yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find words, although we have to cover it because we are a boxing show. Miller should win, and I don't think that it will go any other way. Realistically, I think where Miller's at with his career, he really should be targeting the big money fights, because I don't think he doesn't win a world title, and I don't think he comes close. So if you are not in that bracket, the next thing you've got to look at is I've got to start doing a bit of prize fighting maybe. And earning as much as you can from the shows. Taking dangerous fights. Moses Atalma would pay him a lot of money. That would also be a good win for Atalma.
I like that fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if Moses wins that, because that's where we're talking 300 pound Jarrell Miller versus very talented Moses, but you're right. The size is the problem. Like, I think Perro's a really good fighter. I don't think he's going to deal with Jarrell Miller. I also think this is not the 24 by 24 foot ring, so Perro isn't going to be able to move as much. It's not a small ring either. I think it's just potentially 20 by 20 from what I've read. Unless Perro can punch like Dubois, which he can't, he is not going to move Jarrell Miller. It's heavyweight boxing. He could land. We might be completely wrong, but I think 9 out of 10 times Jarrell Miller will win this fight. The undercard it's good, not great. Nishant Dev is back, but Nishant Dev is back against someone who is 6-2, so Nishantev will win.
It's quite bad.
There's just not much to say about that. We could sit in silence about this, Carl. I'm not going to lie. It's not the best. It's not the best.
That if we carry on talking about it, that might end the stream. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But Miller wins, then we might get Miller AJ.
Why not?
I'd be up for. That's a fight we wanted for years, and that would get AJ ready for a Tyson Fury fight. So I don't mind it. Right, final thing to talk about. And I'll be honest with you, people. My knowledge on this is
you've gone mute.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Have I?
That's fine.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
Essentially, it's traditional boxing, the way we know it now, with the multiple belts and just the way we know it, right? The way fighters get paid, the way they can change contracts and different promoters and the various things. Honestly, the sort of taking the piss that fighters can do versus the UFC model coming into boxing. So I've got a bit of a. It's in America, this, and it is basically Zuffa versus Oscar De La Hoya and Nico Ali Walsh. I am just going to read this because there's no point in me trying to put it in my own words because I'm just going to get it wrong. But it's a US Senate hearing. A major Senate hearing examined proposed change to the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, specifically a new system allowing unified boxing organizations, UBOs, which are Zuffa. That's what Zuffa is. It's an organization that has its own belts and doesn't adhere to the other organizations, WBC, WBA, blah, blah, blah. So De La Hoya and Nico Ali Walsh are on the opposing side. I don't believe it's them solely that have opposed this, but what I believe it is they have heard about it. Nico Ali Walsh obviously feels strongly about it, being it's his granddad's act. De La Hoya being a promoter.
But also
De La Hoya seems like an all right guy, but
and also being a great fighter once upon a time, probably comes into it. And regardless of what you think of De La Hoya now, he was a joke of a boxer. He was actually a joke. There is not if you put De La Hoya in today, there's not a lot of people that beat him. I'll be so honest with you.
Right now, I think he could clean up. There is very limited. So
I give people a bit of a background on it just so they can follow us.
So the UBO is the UFC style. So this would allow for Zuffa to run the way they want to run. The only reason they can't do that is because there are rules in place that allow fighters to have essentially more rights than the promoters. So that's why they can break contracts with little issue. I mean, we do see sometimes where they do have issues, but generally speaking, how often do we see a fighter suddenly signs for a new promoter? 9 times out of 10, that's not because their contract's up. That's just because they've been offered a better deal and it's fair play. It's like when footballers sign for new teams or when managers leave, and it's that kind of thing. It's the contracts kind of mean nothing. They mean a lot, but it depends who you're with. De La Hoya and Nico Ali Walsh are strongly opposed to the UBOs being allowed. They believe that it would shift power towards big corporations, which it would. That is what the UFC is. It would reduce fighters' freedom, earnings, and negotiating power. Again, look at the UFC. And warned it risks undermining protections that currently prevent exploitation in boxing. That I disagree with. The one thing the UFC isn't doing is exploiting its fighters. They have a fixed model that the fighters adhere to. Now, I think they're underpaid, but maybe that's exploitation.
The problem you've got is they've said this about UFC for years, right? About the fighters being underpaid, which obviously very clearly they are in some senses. If you look at the purses, even the top champions are taking. Someone like Ilia Topuria, who's probably one of the best, if not the best, right now on UFC, just in terms of what he's doing and just who he is. Took away maybe 2 million from a fight he had recently, which, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at the purses in boxing, it's not a massive amount of money, and that's before tax.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think you're kind of crying about something that you got yourself into, right? Do you know what the best way of explaining the attitude towards fighter pay in the UFC is?
Yeah.
You've paid for a subscription, a monthly subscription. You've done the week trial. You forgot to unsubscribe. You're then charged for a month. You then complain to the company because you've been charged for a month. But the terms and conditions were your trial ends at the end of that week. If you want to cancel it, you won't be charged. Same with the UFC. Hear me out, Connor, and I'm landing.
Yeah.
You sign a contract with the UFC. They tell you, this is what you're getting paid. That is what you're getting paid. That is what you're getting paid. Why are you now complaining midway through the contract when you knew legally from start to finish what you signed up for? That is one bit of the moaning I will never understand with UFC fighters. If you are not happy with a contract, don't sign for them or leave or terminate your contract.
Yeah. This is one of the biggest, but this is where the issue comes in, is because UFC isn't boxing, so the way it's run is different. It just is. But the UFC as a model, in comparison to basically any sport in the world, most sports, boxing is one of the worst for the wages. Like, as an actual business, if you looked at it from just a business point of view, boxing is run stupidly. Yeah, I believe fighters take 80% of revenue as a wage.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Matchroom, profit-wise, Matchroom profit more of PDC darts than they do their boxing business.
Yeah, because of their, and that's down to their wages. It's the wages they offer, but that is what boxers are accustomed to. Trying to change that is ballsy. But then the UFC is the opposite scale. They only pay out 10% of their revenue to wages. So there's 90% of revenue that's going into. Okay, I mean, a little bit goes into putting the shows on and getting these events done, and the wages of the team, and they have their health centers and all this. But 90%, that's a lot of profit not accounted for.
I have to ask people watching what they think, because the way I look at it is that is a lot of profit the UFC are taking. They are very smart, by the way. What a great business model. But all they've done to the fighters is, here is your contract. You're going to get 300K across, say like 300K across 5 fights. You're going to get that. Potentially a fighter bonus on the night if you get knocked out of the night. That might give you another 200 grand or 100 grand on top of your monthly, on top of your fighter pay. Do you want to sign?
That's the fighter.
Yes, please. For 4 months later, they're halfway through their contract. I'm not happy with the contract that I've signed.
Yeah,
twats. Sorry,
but then this is where the word exploitation comes in, because of the way the UFC is so much bigger than everything else. Does that allow them to just have a form of leverage? Because one championship can't offer the same media coverage that the UFC do. Money-wise, they could probably match the UFC for certain fighters. But that's where there is an argument of exploitation, because yes, the fighter signs it, but look what's just happened with what you said about Ilia Topuria making 2 million. That's pound for pound one of the best fighters in the UFC. The UFC, the same guys that run the UFC, have started up a boxing thing where they've signed Conor Benn, who there's not much evidence is that much higher than British level, and given him $15 million for a fight against with all respect, washed up and broken Regis Prograis as a co-main event. Just so that people know what the Ali Act actually does, because I've got it up now. The core idea, I'm not going to go through it all, but the core idea is that promoters, managers, and sanctioning bodies must be separate entities. It's to allow, it just prevents one company controlling everything, meaning fighters can't get moved around like pieces of meat and sort of chess pieces. It allows different opinions. It's like any business in the world where you normally have to segregate certain parts of your business so that you don't fall into certain errors or purposefully, misdemeanor. Promoters must also disclose full event revenues to fighters, and boxers can therefore see what money is being made versus what they're paid, so they can actually see that percentage difference. There's contract protections, there's anti-corruption rules. It allows for independence and negotiating power from the fighter's standpoint. What the new proposal is to keep the Ali Act, but this is what the UBOs want. So this is where the UFC and Zuffa, this is what they're aiming for, is a single company is allowed to promote fights, rank fighters, and award titles. So it means the promoter is equal to the governing body, one central organization, and the organization controls matchmaking as well, which is how the UFC works, right? But under a UBO, under the UFC, under Zuffa's model, fighters might lose their guaranteed financial disclosures, so they might not know about the revenue of these events anymore. They will be therefore more likely to sign these exclusive long-term deals, which is where the exploitation comes in, because are they kind of being forced into that through lack of knowledge? And the organizations control exactly who they fight, when they fight, and how much leverage they have. It becomes that sort of WWE thing, which is why the UFC is so successful, but also why it has so much critique over fighter pay and the various stuff that comes in it. Personally, I'm completely against this new change. I think we need boxing to stay the way it is without one organization. I mean, I'm all for Zuffa having their own rankings, and having fighters fight within Zuffa, and I think that side of it's good. But to take away pay disclosure,
they're changing the boundaries, because at the moment they are unable to compete with the wages long term. So this will change the boundaries of everything massively. I hope it doesn't go through, but boxing, the sport as we know it, is corrupt right now. At this point, I'm not far off going to watch Slap City in Alabama, because I'm sick of it. I love boxing and I will not stop watching it. But I'm also thinking, shall we just do Slap City this week, every week, because boxing's getting stupid now. We won't, and we'll be here every week, and we'll be moaning about it in 100 shows time. But I'm sick of it. Like I'm sick of boxing now. I think the sports washing is mad in this sport. The amount of sports washing going on, the amount of corruption going on, the amount of drug cheats going on. I've had enough of it. I've had enough. But I'm going to be here next week talking to boxing this week with you guys. But
I don't want to see that put in place. They shouldn't update the Ali Act, and the ones that are trying to do it, they're saying they won't control everything, but that's exactly what they'll do. I don't like it. I would much rather we stay with what we've got, where we then have the same issues we've got, but they can be sorted as well.
I think the best reference to use is, with great power comes great responsibility, innit? Spider-Man. Now, hear me out, and then we go into Lord of the Rings. When they're handing the rings out around the ring, I don't want it. It's not that powerful. Put it on. This feels nice. Don't want to let it go. This feels nice. No, my precious. All of that. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen with Zuffa. This power feels nice. I'm gonna control pay now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the UFC is. They're the most powerful organization within fighting. Actually, they just are. They're saying that the new act wouldn't change things that much. It would just allow them to rank and do their own governing. That's not the whole reason. They can do that to an extent already. You just ignore the IBF, you just ignore them, and you just have your own belt. it's not as official, but it is, because at the end of the day, it's what fans think. If you put Opataya and Zerdo in the ring, the winner for me is the best at cruiserweight. If he happens to have a belt around him that says Zuffa world champion, well, fine, he's world champion. I don't. No fan really gives a shit about the behind the scenes legitimacy of a world title, because a world champion is a world champion. But yeah, I hopefully that won't go through, because that is actually a bit of a worry for what boxing could turn into. But that's boxing this week. We do have Sky Nicholson fighting on Wednesday, which we haven't really mentioned, but it's not the best fight, and we will talk about it the next day on Thursday, so I feel like we'll just do it then. We've also got next week, we'll be talking about Naoya Inoue versus Junto Nakatani, which is May 2nd. We've got a lot coming up next week, but that's Boxing This Week 90. Remember, Amazon gift card giveaway, £50. We will announce the winner at 500 subscribers. To enter, it is free to enter. Subscribe, comment that you are subscribed. You've seen Arj and Mel. They've both been commenting. They're both entered. Anything else? Oh yeah, just like and subscribe anyway. We've been doing this for 90 episodes. We're not going to go anywhere. We're pretty fucking awesome. So nice. And TikTok and Instagram, I've said this a few times, they get exclusive content because of copyright. I don't know why that is the case, but YouTube seem to care more than they do. So there are videos that will only go out on TikTok and Instagram. So make sure you're following us, which reminds me, thank you for 500 followers on TikTok. That does mean a lot. And actually, TikTok in itself has done really well recently. Paolo, anything to say to the wonderful people at home?
If you love us, you love us. If you don't, we don't. We can be a bad smell, or we can be a blessing to you. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.